Hello, I am doing a book report on Feed by M.T. Anderson. Let's get right to this, shall we? Why is the book called Feed, you may ask? Trust me, it's not a weird zombie book where everyone is trying not to get their face ripped off and eaten. The only zombies are the people walking around malls talking to people who aren't really there, much like people today on their phone. A feed is like a phone, but much better. Feeds are brain interfacing technology that is a chip inside your brain that allows you to pretty much Google things literally off the top of your head. Revolutionary technology indeed, and I believe not too far away from today's technological possibilities. Most people alive have feeds from the time they're born to the time they die. However, only 70% of the population on Earth have these, and that 30 is mainly because they are too poor to afford them, or rebels calling them evil devils made up by corporations. Setting. My book takes place in the future, say the 22nd century, where everything is as you'd imagine. Super high tech. Feed starts off with a casual spring break trip to the moon. Where else would you go? The moon is a huge tourist attraction with many attractions people would love to visit. Gift shops, bars, hotels, and dance lounges. Most places have gravity to an extent, but others don't have any gravity, and abuse that to sell fun amazing to tourists wanting to play in zero-G. However, you must stay indoors as the entire moon itself does not have an atmosphere, clearly. Later, the story takes a turn and returns to Earth after an incident requiring the characters to return home. Earth is, to say the least, ruined. Corporations run the world and pollute literally everywhere without care. Pretty much all animals are gone, and towns are now mostly in tubes and domes, and a lot of buildings are mostly underground. By design, don't worry. Some villages in South Africa are even completely covered in sludge, as said by the feed. It's a terrible state, but what happens when people stop caring? The pollution has gotten so bad it's beginning to cause lesions on people's skin, which really are just strips of blisters that go across your body in random places for each person. Some hate them due to looks, others learn to be okay with it. Characters. Titus. Titus is the main character and your average everyday teenager, at least for his time. Titus is a simple-minded person who just wants to have fun and has a crush on Violet and later hooks up with her. A good word to describe Titus is average. Titus acts like a normal teenager, using up-to-date slang such as calling his trip to the moon null or modern-day boring, and even going on to say the moon turned out to completely suck. Titus even attempts multiple times in the very beginning to get alcohol any way he can, just for a buzz to have fun at the dance lounge, even attempting to smash a hotel broom bar with a crowbar. Not only those, but Titus is into the ladies. Titus begins with a huge crush on Violet, and as said, does ask her out. Titus's appearance, however, is actually bioengineered in the conceptionarium to look like a sea-level feed cast star, the Glacie Murdoch. He's sea-level. Assuming it either goes up to A or S, it's not too high up there. When his parents were young, they thought that he was just the most amazing actor they'd ever seen, during his 15 minutes of fame, that is. They took their favorite parts of the actor, his hairline, dimples, and chin. However, they did leave some of their own features to make him truly perfect in their eyes. His dad's eyes and mouth, and his mom's nose and hands. Violet. Violet is the main love interest of Titus, for most of the book at least, and is a very retro girl for her time. She's mostly outdated, and if you didn't know better, you might assume she's part of a cult. Homeschooled, didn't get a feed till she was 7, and her parents objected to any popular toy. Violet herself is a very intelligent person, which does end up being her downfall. In the no-grav zone on the moon, Violet's curiosity had led her to, as Titus mentions, just opened her mouth and pushed the juice out with her tongue. The juice came out of her lips as if it was being extracted real careful by a rock star dentist who she loved. She then watched the juice float around her, intrigued by the traces of juice floating around her face. Curiosity is a trait experienced in most intelligent people, as they like to understand all around them, and without curiosity, that won't happen. Many times in the book, Violet uses big words that annoy the other girls they hang out with. One occasion in the book, Violet asks Loga and Callista about a riot and states, "I wonder what incited it." Both girls suddenly look irritated and walk away. When walking away, Loga remarks, "Put that in your metizabism." And Callista replies, "What's a metizabism?" And Loga responds, "Oh, sorry. I thought it was good to use stupid long words that no one can understand." Titus goes on to remark that Violet is probably learning ancient Swahili or building a replica of the Carthage out of iron fillings or finding the cure to entropy, as a joke on how insanely smart compared to all the others. He says this because she is actually learning how to write old, obsolete code from her dad, a skill not many people have or even need to use. Violet is sexy, smart, and sexy. What a great combo for a girl, right? When Titus and his friends first see Violet, they're all infatuated with her looks, and Callista had to message them to tell them about the two guys staring with their mouths wide open so they look completely Cro-Magnon. Cro-Magnons are the first anatomically modern humans found in the evolutionary chain, meaning they pretty much look like cavemen docking at her from across the room. Violet's lesion is actually in a rather good place, and she wishes for it to spread more. Her lesion is under her neck, and she says, "I want mine to go all the way around. I want it to be like a necklace, but right now, it's just a torque." She sees her blister as a piece of natural jewelry she is blessed to have. Not like Quendy's, spreading across her forehead and bleeding everywhere. Aside from Titus and Violet, the two main characters often hang out with a group of friends. These include the boys, Marty and Link, and the girls, Callista, Loga, and Quendy. Conflict. In my book, the main conflict is that Violet needs her feet repaired in her head because it is malfunctioning and getting, well, fatal errors. If she doesn't receive this repair, she doesn't know what might happen and is scared. Feeds are connected to nearly everything in your body, and if one goes bad, then, as you'd imagine, everything connected will too. Feeds are literally hardwired into your brain. Going bad will be disastrous in any way. She could die, go brain dead, or lose control of sections of her body, etc. However, she doesn't have the money for these repairs because her family is poor. All feeds do actually come with a warranty in case things like this happens, except her warranty's expired. Typical, right? To attempt to get the repairs anyway, her family ends up petitioning the company in hopes for the best. This type of conflict is external, and man versus society, because most people in this age have feeds and hers is going to go bad. As well, corporations practically are society nowadays, as they, as stated before, practically control the world. Summary of plot. As in most books, Feed follows the typical plot flow: exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. The exposition, or start in my book, is the trip to the moon. This is where everything is introduced, of course. Violet is not yet met, but the book opens on a casual flight to the moon, flying with people taking your seats. What else would you expect on your flight? Eventually, they get to the moon and play around, then go eat, which is where they meet Violet. They try to have fun and get buzzed, but that fails horribly, as all their options to obtain alcohol fail, especially beating the minibar in the hotel room with things they can find. Eventually, they get to the dance club, which Violet doesn't really enjoy very much. She's not used to very much social interaction, and doesn't know what to do, and just kind of watches everybody dancing with Titus. Then they meet the hacker. The hacker from the anti-feed group Coalition of Pity hack their feeds. This causes them to uncontrollably start chanting about the corporations destroying the world and such. Eventually, the cops have to show up and shut off the kids. That's right, shut off. They have power buttons because of the feed. Eventually, the kids wake back in the hospital with their feeds turned off and are being monitored to make sure they're all okay. And for the most part, there's no serious damage to any of the kids, asides Violet, of course. But this isn't mentioned until later in the story. After getting fixed up from the hack attack, Titus and his friends return to Earth. Life goes once again normal for them. Normal mostly means returning to school TM. School's a lot different now, however, as most of nowadays teaching is irrelevant due to the feed's capability. Also, school TM is called that because the corporations own it. A lot of partying and getting technologically high later, Violet and Titus are alone, and she drops the bomb. Her feedware is damaged, and the doctors are going to have to do some adjustments to repair it since it hasn't been stabilized yet. The two then continue to hug and kiss in the synthetic breeze, attempting to calm down. After the party, Titus has a weird dream where he gets a ton of free feed games and a pet lizard. Things he really wants, but it's strange. He goes on to think it's the hackers from the Coalition, but forgets the dream when he wakes up, only remembering it a few weeks later, of course. A few days later, however, Violet begins her own anti-feedness. Guess the feed hack is really getting to her. She asks Titus to go to the mall to attempt to make a feed shopping profile so whack they won't be able to advertise to her ever again. Right? Well, that just makes her get ads for all that she bought, including spotlights to mount on her stomach. Titus does enjoy hanging out with her though. He says places he visits feel new to him because she's just there with him. Titus thinks sometimes Violet is way too smart for him. He's not too good at school TM. Schools only really teach how to use the feed, be a good consumer, get a job, and bargain hunt. Violet thinks this is all kinda depressing, but Titus tells her that's useless. Violet figures nothing will change with the American political system being the way it is. Titus tells her that America is a democracy, as we're all told, but Violet swears it's not, and is actually a republic. These kinds of times make Titus annoyed at Violet because she acts different. Violet then points out that 73% of the people don't even have a feed. He feels stupid because he didn't realize how many people didn't. But then Violet states that feeds are raising a nation of idiots. Uh-oh. Titus gets mad. She just called him an idiot. Awkward silence then fills the car though. He gets pretty upset about this, and his parents do all they can to cheer him up. And it totally works. They're letting him buy his very own up car. He doesn't feel so stupid anymore. His very own up car. A few days later, Titus flies his new up car to pick Violet and meets her dad. His dad has a very obsolete version of the feed. A pair of glasses and a clunky backpack. That sounds familiar, actually. A while later, after being insulted over the word incited, as stated earlier, Titus takes her to his house. Alone, she talks about stuff she wants to do before she can't anymore. Being underwater, or maybe sex. That's what Titus thinks at least. Teenage boys, am I right? More partying, girl drama, and technological highs later, Violet yells at a whole crowd of kids at a party, then falls over spazzing and is taken to the hospital. The next time they hang out, she had lost her memory of being 6. She tells Titus that they can't be separated. Aww. Before he leaves, he sees Violet and her dad trying to contact Feed Tech to get repairs, threat to petition, and use the classic "we'll take our business elsewhere" approach. Titus and Violet start to spread apart, because Titus is kinda uncomfortable with all Violet is saying. They decide to take on her bucket list eventually, but then Violet gets a message from FeedTech. FeedTech says they have no interest in paying for her repairs, and so have other corporate sponsors. They do this because they can't create a customer profile of her, because she purposely tried to make them unable to, all because she decided to do things like what she did at the mall. It's a shame. The next day, Violet's arm stops working, and she freaks out and has to be drugged. Violet sends Titus a ton of her memories because she's scared she'll lose them. He doesn't even look at them, but deletes them due to it taking too much space. What a bad boyfriend, right? Later, Violet asks him about their plans for the weekend, but he has no idea what she's talking about. They all just got deleted. Titus just says he never got her messages, and she thinks this means her feed is even more broken. Good job, Titus. She tells him that she wants to go to the mountain with him, and he goes feeling guilty that he deleted her messages. While alone together, she tries to seduce him, but he isn't into it. He keeps seeing her as already dead. They then break up, and Violet is devastated. She says she came into the world alone and didn't want to leave it alone, but Titus is done with her guilt tripping and feels no remorse. Titus takes her home, and she refuses help from anyone getting out of his car, even her own dad. The day after the fight, Violet doesn't try to say sorry, but she wants him to know she loves him. Violet reminds him that there's always time to fix things until there's not. Months later, Violet's dad chats Titus. Violet's dad tells him, sorry, did you expect me to give spoilers? That's funny. Theme. Throughout Feed, there is a point that the story always goes back to and points at. Corporations. Do not let yourself be sold out to some corporation. Even right at the beginning, there are several places that have people protesting and rebelling against corporations practically ruling humanity. This is especially clear when Titus and his friends are hacked. They just go on chanting about how the corporations are ruining the world. Nothing like a casual hacker that's just trolling people. He has a purpose. Violet goes on to attempt to create a false shopping profile of them all in order to spite the corporation and attempt to fry their systems, but she still gets the ads. Even the schools are tainted by corporations. As said before, they only teach you how to be good for them. All they care about is money and have no morals at all. The author attempts to stress this as much as he can. Favorite part. In the book feed, my favorite part of the book is page 119's feedcast. When I read this, I can't help but laugh and imagine Donald Trump. I do have to filter myself a bit here for this one, as the main part of it is the cuss word itself. The President of the United States of America calls the Prime Minister of the world a craphead, but less filtered. Every time I read this, I can honestly imagine Donald Trump calling a world leader a craphead. The Vice President of the U.S. is trying to convey that when he said this to the Prime Minister, it is actually an American idiom used to praise people by referring to the sheer fertilizing power of their thoughts, and that any attempt to withdraw the alliance's diplomatic presence from the American soil will be taken as a sign of ill will, and then begins to stutter about how the U.S. will respond to that. Author information. M.D. Anderson, or Matthew Tobin Anderson, was born in Cambridge, Massachusetts in 1968. When he was little, his father worked on a radar system at a U.S. Army base, and he rented a small apartment in a crumbling old monastery. What he saw then changed him. He says one time in kindergarten back in the United States, his teacher thought something was wrong with him because he couldn't stack blocks right. When the teacher asked him what about it, he said, "I'm building ruins," and that's what he's been doing ever since. As a teenager, he wanted to be a writer, writing comics, books, and the code for adventure games, one of which was actually published 15 years later, called The Game of Sunken Places. M.D. Anderson has won many awards in his lifetime as well. Feed itself was a finalist for the National Book Award and was a winner of the LA Times Book Prize. Another book written by Anderson, the first volume of his Octavian Nothing saga, won the National Book Award and Boston Globe Horn Book Prize. Both volumes of that saga were Prince Honor books as well. When not writing, Anderson likes to travel to exotic places and seeing ruins of ancient cities. He likes hiking in places like New Hampshire and Vermont too. In the winter, he enjoys cross-country skiing. He loves music, especially the harpsichord and fried food. He states his idea of heaven would be a harpsichord recital where they serve funnel cakes, and he's still waiting for it to happen. And in the end, Feed is a great book. It teaches you a lot you can learn from and apply to your own life, and teaches you a lesson about love. It is also the story of a teenager just trying to live and love. The story of an average teenager nowadays as well. This is a great read that I encourage any teen, or at least sci-fi fans especially, to read. I give Feed 5 out of 5 stars because it is an extraordinary book with amazing life morals.